everybody, and welcome to another ASMR video here on the channel. Just looking at my hair in the viewfinder. I've been doing jobs around the house and it's gone all curly and short for some reason, so apologies if that is the scariest thing about this video. But in this evening's video, what I have for you is a return to the No Sleep Reddit. This evening we're going to spend some time reading a couple of stories to hopefully scare you as well as relax you somehow. And that's it. Let's get into them. So I've picked a few more short stories that we're going to read through, rather than the really long ones. So this first story is called Cremated Alive. In college, I got a job at a crematorium. It wasn't fun at all. It paid really well, and being a broke and struggling student, I was okay with it. Dealing with dead bodies was gross at first, but I got used to it pretty quickly. One day, I was cleaning the floor when a hearse pulled up into the parking lot. A man in a black suit stepped out and headed over to my manager to talk to him. After a while, he called me over to help him carry the casket to the crematorium. It was strange, because usually they bring the caskets over to the funeral home, but I thought nothing of it. We put the coffin on the ground and I started the fire up for the cremation process. There was an awkward silence between the man and I just thought maybe this was a family member that had died and he was in charge of getting him cremated. When the oven was ready, my manager and I picked up the casket and brought it on a metal table. We took off the top of the casket and I saw that the corpse was of a 30-something-year-old man. The thing that confused me the most was dead bodies usually are pale, but this one was pink in the face. My manager started the conveyor belt and I just stood around waiting. It usually takes about an hour or two for the body to completely turn to ashes. After that, I'd collect the ashes and put them into an urn. My manager and the man went next door into the funeral home to fill out some paperwork or something. I was left alone in the crematorium to finish cleaning. After 15 minutes afterwards, I heard a strange banging from the oven. It was like a faded knocking sound. At first I thought it was my imagination, but then it grew into a loud banging. I just tried to tell myself that it was the metal warping. Bang, bang. It was the unmistakable sound of someone banging on something, trying to get out. A chill went down my spine, and the cloth I had a death grip on suddenly felt weightless. I was completely sure that the guy inside was still alive. Terrified, I ran into the funeral home shaking uncontrollably. I told my manager what I had heard. Leading them back into the crematorium, I told them to listen. Bang, bang. I don't hear anything, said my manager. Bang, bang. Yeah, me neither, said the man. I looked at them in awe. I began to doubt my own sanity. My manager and the man just looked at me like I'm crazy and went back into the funeral home. I just sat on the ground listening, waiting to hear the banging noises again. I didn't know how to open the furnace door without possibly drowning in the flames. After 15 minutes in a burning furnace, would someone even be able to live? Soon the banging noises stopped. All I could hear is the crackling of the fire. There was no more noise. An hour later, my manager came to turn off the oven. Together we collected the ashes and put them in an urn. The man smile and he drove away. At closing time, my manager gave me an envelope full of cash and told me not to mention what I had heard to anyone. I never spoke of it ever again. Even today, I still have nightmares of the banging noise. I feel like it's my fault that he died. This next story has a lot of upvotes, It's titled, "My wife has been pregnant for 2 years and the doctors don't have a clue why. We headed overseas to try a labour-induced birth." Okay. "I never thought I would have to leave my country to save my wife, but here I am on a plane to Switzerland with a suitcase full of cash and a desperate hope. She's been pregnant for 2 years and no one knows why. They can't even tell me if it's a baby or something else. Something I hope is just a complication from such a long term. My wife and I had very different views on having children. She had a hereditary condition that made pregnancy very difficult and dangerous for her, but she also had a strong desire to be a mother. She grew up as an only child and felt lonely. She wanted to have a big family and give her children the love and attention that she had craved. I loved my wife and wanted to support her, but I also worried about her health and well-being. I thought about adopting children who needed a home and a family. I thought that would be a safer and more compassionate option. We talked about it and agreed to try for a baby, even though it was risky and painful for her, but when she made it into her second trimester, it was a blessing. I thought I was ready for fatherhood. I had a stable job, a loving wife and a cosy home. I was overjoyed, but the pregnancy didn't progress normally. Discomfort and pain became our constant companions. Morning sickness, fatigue, backache, swelling, changes in sleep patterns and other bodily changes made her miserable and exhausted. But that was nothing compared to the fear and anxiety that gripped me every day. She didn't show any signs of growth. She didn't feel any movement except for pain. She didn't hear any heartbeat. And the doctors didn't know what was wrong. We hoped for a miracle, but we got a nightmare. Work-life balance was a joke. I could barely manage to get through the day, let alone support her and our baby. I felt guilty for working too much, but I also felt guilty for not earning enough. I tried to prepare for parenthood, but I had no idea what to expect or how to cope. I felt alone and overwhelmed. Financial strain added to the stress. Medical bills piled up, and we had to dip into our savings. We worried about how we would afford maternity leave, childcare, and all the other expenses that come with having to perform so many tests. We had to cut back on everything, and we still barely made ends meet and make sure there would be no way a miscarriage could happen. Relationship stresses tested our bond. Pregnancy can put strain on any relationship, but ours was pushed to the absolute limit. We argued more than ever, and we struggled to communicate and understand each other. We tried to be supportive and loving, but we also felt frustrated and resentful. It's been 730 days. Not days of morning sickness and cute baby bumps, but 730 days of a swollen belly, endless doctor's appointments, and a growing chasm between me and my wife. It started normally enough. Positive test, excitement, planning for the tiny human on the way. But then at month 9 something went wrong. The bump kept growing, but no heartbeat, no kicks, just an unsettling emptiness. Doctors were baffled. Scans showed nothing but shadows. Freaky shadows that sent chills down my spine. New laws came in, shutting down any hope of invasive procedures. No termination, no poking around to see what the hell was going on. We tried everything, every specialist clinic, even lawmakers. All brick walls of apathy and legalese. No one cared that this wasn't normal, that her stomach was pushing against its limits. Her legs and feet swollen like balloons, and every scan, every prod, every cold touch on her belly, it felt like scraping ice against my soul. We used to be close, whispering dreams of the future. Now the silence between us is deafening, punctuated only by her strained breaths and the creaking of the house settling in the dead of the night. Sometimes I stare at that monstrous bulge and wonder what it is. But I do worry more about my wife, and how this all feels for her. I just wanted it to stop, and so did she. Whatever this was, it was stealing our lives, even if it means silence, even if it means emptiness. And so I found myself on a plane to Switzerland, with a suitcase full of cash and desperate hope. She sat beside me asleep, but I soon noticed something along her stretched out shirt. A seemingly glossy steel shell had pierced through her skin. We met a doctor at the airport who took us to a secluded facility. He said he had a solution, but it came with a price. She might not make it, the doctor said. Well, I can't survive any longer, my wife said. So the procedure began. Dr. Petrov, a grizzled man, prepped our makeshift operating room. My wife, pale and fragile on the makeshift table, held my hand tighter than she ever had, her knuckles white against mine. Ready? Petrov's voice rasped, a surgeon's mask obscuring his face. My throat squeezed shut. For what? To pull back the curtain, he said, the glint of the angle grinder blade catching the sunlight. For answers, even if they're not the ones you want. I nodded, the lump in my throat immovable. Answers, any answers, were better than the gnawing void of the past 2 years. The whirring of the grinder sliced through the silence. A mechanical shriek that sent shivers down my spine. It bit into my wife's flesh, the smell of burning iron filling the air. I squeezed her hand, a silent mantra of "it's okay, bouncing against the walls of my skull. Time morphed into a sickening blend of blood, bone and metallic tang. Petrov worked with a grim efficiency, a sculptor chipping away at a grotesque statue. Every groan from my wife, every tremor from her body was a fresh jolt of agony. Then a gasp. Dr. Petrov held up a piece of warped metal, its edges catching the light like a twisted halo. It pulsed faintly, an alien heartbeat in the sterile room. My God, Petrov breathed, his voice raw. A shell wrapped around her spine. My world shattered. A metal shell inside her. The phantom pregnancy, the cold void under her skin. It all made a horrifying sense. We weren't carrying a child. We were carrying this. My wife whimpered, eyes wide with a primal fear that mirrored my own. Her hand, slick with sweat, slipped from mine. I reached for her, but Petrov pushed me back, his face grim. We need to remove it, he said, his voice tight. Now. But as the grinder whined back to life, a new terror bloomed in the air, a metallic hum emanating from the shell itself. It pulsed, it resonated, before it slowly retracted its tentacles from my wife's spine, pushing itself out of her to roll over to the floor, as Petrov remained shocked. My wife lay still, her eyes empty, a vessel emptied of such a heavy thing. As I looked down and touched the shell, Petrov begged I stopped, but I had to know what we had been dealing with. The shell gently opened and I wondered what to expect, until I met a beautiful baby girl. But her eyes weren't right. They still aren't. She's growing up quickly since that last week. She can talk now, and she really does love us, even helping her mum through her recovery. But I don't know if she's really mine. But what else can she be? Very, very well written, that one. The top reply says, "I'm glad your wife survived the pregnancy. I hope you and your family are happy together." Lovely. Final story for this video is titled, "My family is alive and well. I'm truly happy, believe me. Yet should I find out the truth as to why they are still alive." Man, I couldn't believe what I saw in the news yesterday. I was just chilling at work, flipping through the channels on the TVs we had at the store. The news then hit me like a freight train. My wife, Jessica, and our 3 kids were apparently gone. A car accident, they said. I sat there frozen as the newscaster rattled off their names. My heart sank and my whole world crumbled right then and there. My co-workers tried to comfort me, saying things like, "I'm so sorry, Jimmy, and if there's anything we can do." But honestly, nothing could fill the void that news had punched into my gut. I appreciated their efforts though. It was a tough day, and I just couldn't shake off the feeling that I'd lost everything. Night fell and I went home to an empty, cold house. The silence was deafening. I crawled into bed, praying it was all just a messed up nightmare. I mean, how could I face a world without Jessica's laughter or the kids' never-ending energy? Morning came and I swear I heard noises echoing through the house. Confused, I followed the sound and to my disbelief, found my whole family there. Jessica greeted me with a smile and the kids were at the table talking about their next camping trip. It was like the news had never happened. My emotions were all over the place, from despair to an overwhelming joy that filled the void I thought was permanent. I had to make sure. Maybe it was just a coincidence. I hurried to my laptop, opened it up and searched for yesterday's news, and there it was. The same names, the same identities, titled "Death of a Mother and 3 Kids." My heart sank again. "Jimmy, breakfast is ready for you. You've got to head to work soon," Jessica called from the kitchen. I just stood there baffled. The doubt crept in like a shadow and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was all a weird coincidence, but my mind refused to let go of the idea that my family might not be alive as they seem. I decided to go to work, thinking maybe it was just a mix-up in the news. But those strange doubts lingered in the back of my mind, casting a shadow over the happiness that had briefly warmed my heart. I couldn't shake the feeling that reality was playing tricks on me. My life was turning into some bizarre puzzle with missing pieces. I couldn't shake off the weird vibes that lingered from the morning. My co-workers acted like the news of my family's demise never happened. Greetings were casual, conversations were normal. It was surreal. I decided to approach Dan, my closest co-worker who witnessed my grief just yesterday. "Hey Dan, did you know that my family passed away yesterday?" I asked, my voice filled with uncertainty. Dan stared at me, confusion etched on his face. "Is this some kind of joke to you, Jimmy?" he responded. I pressed on, mentioning the news about the mother and 3 kids. Dan acknowledged the local news but questioned if it was all part of a prank. conversation short, realising I was getting nowhere. Doubts continued to cloud my mind throughout the day. Was it all a sick joke, or was there something more sinister at play? After work, I spotted Jessica walking alone in the streets, an unusual behaviour for her. My curiosity piqued, and I decided to follow her discreetly like a shadow in the night. The journey led us 3 miles away from the city, where she stumbled upon a small, eerie shed in the middle of the forest. She looked around cautiously before entering. I remained vigilant, lurking in the shadows, my heart pounding. As I cautiously stepped into the shed, I noticed a dark entrance leading underground. A cold shiver ran down my spine, as if an ominous force warned me against proceeding. Despite the terrifying sensation, I couldn't resist the urge to discover the truth. Was my family really alive, or was there something darker at play? The choice loomed before me. Enter the foreboding darkness or walk away from the unsettled discovery that awaited. I stood there torn between the fear of the unknown and the desperate need for answers. The shed held secrets, and the decision to uncover them weighed heavily on my shoulders. Days passed, and I found solace in the seemingly normal routine of family life. The kids engrossed in a Disney movie brought a genuine smile to my face. The warmth of our home enveloped me, yet a lingering fear and doubt persisted in the depths of my mind. Curiosity gnawed at me, and I couldn't help but question the kids about their mum's whereabouts. They nonchalantly mentioned she had gone to the grocery store for dinner ingredients. As if on cue, Jessica walked in, a bag of groceries in hand. A kiss on the cheek, a warm greeting, it was all so normal. She headed to the kitchen, and the aroma of cooking filled the air, just like any other day. I convinced myself that maybe avoiding the investigation into the mysterious entrance was the right decision. I have a family that is alive, and they're the same as they were before. That's good enough for me, I reassured myself. The days rolled by in a haze of happiness spent with my seemingly resurrected family. Despite the moments of joy, the thought of the secret entrance lingered like a shadow. The internal struggle persisted, and I questioned if I should venture back into the unknown, risking everything I'd regained. Unable to keep it to myself any longer, I decided to seek advice from the vast, anonymous realm of the internet. I crafted a post on a forum known as Reddit, pouring out my story to faceless strangers. I'm asking for your opinion, wondering if I should take the plunge into the mysterious underground, or cherish the happiness I had found with my family. So guys, should I be happy with what I have, or investigate the truth? I think you gotta find out the truth. I mean, if that was me, really, I mean, it's not real, but like treating it like it's real. The whole friend thing at work thing is really weird. Someone's theorised maybe Jessica made a deal with something, since everyone is acting like the accident never happened. Only you remember it. Could be possible she was offered a second chance for her kids and you to live, and them to live. Not sure what the price is, but probably has to do with the shed. Yeah, got to investigate it. But interesting. Well, that was 3 scary stories from the nosleep Reddit. I wouldn't say they were the most terrifying we had on the channel, but definitely some well-written scary stories. But hopefully you did enjoy this video. It's a little bit on the shorter side for these stories, but there'll be a nice 1 hour long video for you coming at this Thursday, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But that is going to do it for this evening's video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and until the next video. everybody